Okay. Oh, good. We are recording. All right. So this is going to be our quick once over on the Mars-Saturn conjunction. Woohoo! Batten down the hatches, kids. It's going to be a bumpy ride. All right. So I've got a couple different versions of the chart set up. Let's start with a simple one first. So we have this month at the end of the month, March 31st in 2018, the dreaded Mars-Saturn conjunction. Ooh, be afraid, be very afraid. And I say that with some facetiousness, but also with a little bit of seriousness, because for some of you, you really should be afraid. So let's go over what's good and bad about this particular Mars-Saturn conjunction so that we're all prepared for it and nobody is caught off guard. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to look at the Mars-Saturn conjunction. Now, Mars is very comfortable in the sign of Capricorn. It is the placement of generals, or at least they think they're generals. Saturn is in its home sign in Capricorn, so the two together makes for a very strong position. The saving grace is that Saturn is in its sign of rulership. And what this means, as I said, with the 2018 Saturn in Capricorn kind of overview, it will be the best of times and the worst of times. So everything that is good about Capricorn, we will see. And everything that is bad about Capricorn, we will see. So with Mars conjuncting Saturn, both in Capricorn, what we can expect to feel and see as, well, no, let's not look at what we're going to feel and see. Let's look at how we can use this energy and get through this. To hell with feeling and seeing. We're feeling and seeing plenty these days. Screw that. Let's get crap done, right? Yeah, that's what I'm talking about, baby. Okay, so with this dreaded Mars-Saturn conjunction Capricorn, here are a few things you need to know. If you are fortunate enough to not have planets or sensitive angles at the 6 to 10 degree mark in the signs of Aries, Cancer, Capricorn, or Libra, if you do not have planets or angles between 6 and 10 degrees in those signs, count your blessings, and what we're going to talk about right now is definitely for you. For everybody who does have planets and angles at those degrees in those signs, we've got a whole special set of challenges that we're going to go over separately. So for those of us who are fortunate enough to have saved and been spared ourselves the skinning of the cat this time, with this Mars-Saturn conjunction, what we can do to make this work for us is this is a time of putting your money where your mouth is. You know the old, what is it, proverb, when you pray, move your feet. So it's not enough to give lip service. We really got to do something, take action, make a commitment, and do the hard work. Like literally, it is hammer time, honey. Boom, it's hammer time. So right now, because it's still early on, we have time to get it together. So we have a couple of weeks now to really kind of get really clear about what it is that we need to get rid of. This is the time of cutting dead weight, tossing things off the boat before the boat sinks. You know, really like throwing out the old maps and setting them on fire. Or what is it Tony Robbins likes to say? If you're going to take the island, you got to burn the boats. So this is the time to really get very clear about what is holding us back and what needs to go, and making, more than anything else, whether you get rid of stuff or not get rid of stuff, this is going to be the most important time for you to make an unapologetic stand at the OK Corral at that noon shootout and say, you know what? This is it. This is it. It's showtime, honey. So what do we have to do to get where we're trying to go? And are we doing something? Are we doing anything right now with this Mars-Saturn conjunction like this? Even a symbolic gesture, if you really mean it, carries a lot of weight. So even if you're in a situation where you can't bend or move or change circumstances, Intention is everything. So if you really mean what you're doing and you make the symbolic gesture that is the very beginning of the eggshell cracking that's about to give birth to new life, then make your stand and make your symbolic gesture. The most important thing to understand about this particular conjunction is that this literally will bring you face to face with your own failings. So where you have failed yourself as well as other people, these are the things where you're going to have no way to skirt around, justify, rationalize, or otherwise make excuses for yourself anymore. Because this is it. This is literally the end of the road, honey. This is the end of the road. So, what is it? There's a very good way to describe this, right? So, like procrastination, here's a good one for you. So, procrastination is a very, very good example, because when we procrastinate, we say we're going to do stuff, and then, we do, we don't, we get around to it, we're late, whatever, we're channel surfing, blah, 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 whatever, we're going to start the diet tomorrow, next week, next month, after the wedding, after our bat mitzvah. And the thing about it is, sure, we disappoint other people when we don't get stuff done, especially if we've promised other people that we're going to do stuff, or that we've agreed to do things, like go to a party and be on time, we show up an hour late. For those of you who do stuff like that, nobody likes it. Nobody likes it. There's a limit to how much people will put up with nonsense like that. But more than that, and more important, and this is where this Mars-Saturn conjunction comes in, this is very much about breaking contracts with ourselves. When we don't do what we tell ourselves that we're going to do, we're breaking a contract with ourselves, and we're not showing ourselves or our own time any respect. Because clearly, if you had any respect for yourself or your time or your energy, you would just get it done. You wouldn't dilly-dally and drag on or whatever. You wouldn't break contracts with yourself. So Mars and Saturn is very much about the contractual agreements that we make. It's the official, formal agreements and obligations, which is a formal agreement, and the rules that we play by. So rules, obligations, agreements, and contracts, all of these things are extremely important at this time. And when this Mars-Saturn comes to that tight conjunction, and in this particular case, it's going to involve a full moon, all of these things are going to be illuminated, and we're really going to be given the opportunity, well, not really the opportunity, you're not going to have a choice, in taking a good, hard look at how we are keeping our contracts with ourselves and with other people, and how we're failing ourselves and other people and breaking those contracts. Every day is an opportunity to start over, but if every day we spend starting over repeatedly, we're not getting anywhere. So with this energy at this time, make a plan between now and the time you get there. What is it that you need to do to self-correct on this navigational path that you are on? How have you let yourself down? How have you failed yourself in your contracts with yourself? What are the things in your life that you've said are important to you that you're going to do, but you never quite get around to? That's the thing we have to look at, and that's the thing we've got to take an absolute committed stand on once and for all. And that's how we use this Mars-Saturn energy. So if you do that, you will navigate away from the worst of this, and you will get the best, the absolute best possible results you can get, because this is a tremendous amount of disciplined, harnessed energy available to be used and wants to be used productively. So the choice is ours. Do we do something with this, or do we let it do something with us? So use or be used, Capricorn, right? So very much this energy wants to be used productively, because if you don't use it consciously and productively, it's going to use you. And this is not, oh my Lord, darling, let me tell you something. This is not the kind of energy you want riding you like a voodoo loa, taking possession of your body to do what it needs to do. You do not want to be the vehicle for this energy. You want to use that energy as your vehicle. So that's that. Now, before I get into the people who have things at the cardinal signs in Aries, Libra, Capricorn, Cancer. Let me just finish up here real quick. Now, the other thing is this is a full moon T-square that this Mars-Saturn conjunction is involved in. Woohoo! Oh my God. Like, this is like Chinese firecracker New Year, right? Because they're in cardinal signs, and we've got this loaded Mars-Saturn, tight, tense kind of energy. So some of the things that we should be aware of is that and Mercury is retrograde, out in the world, it's going to be a little tense. It's going to be a little tense. And that means that resisting the urge to go balls to the wall, like full torpedoes ahead, gung-ho on somebody's ass, that's the most important thing anybody can do right now, especially around the time of this full moon. There's going to be a lot of temptation for people to pull the trigger, like literally push the button and pull the trigger. Dad blasted, we're done here. And that may be necessary, that may not be necessary. I'm not going to make a judgment call on that. Sometimes you got to bring the hammer down to get people to knock off their nonsense. These things happen. The question, of course, always becomes, who's bringing the hammer down, and what exactly are we doing? I mean, are we taking care of, like, what is it, a wild boar charging us, or are we trying to kill a mouse with a hammer, right? So, be aware that there is the potential for people to be overly excessive in their militant responses and almost violent, bring the hammer down sort of responses to situations. People are not playing right now. Oh, no, 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 no. And this could be you. This could be you. So if this is you, count to 10 and make sure that you are not bringing the hand grenades to a fist fight. Like, you might want to bring the volume down a couple of notches, because you may be way in excess as far as your response to what the actual problem is. It's going to be a little hard to keep perspective under this particular full moon, especially if it is activating stuff in your life that's already got you on edge. So people who are already on edge are really going to lose their at this time. So calm, cool, controlled, and collected is the best and only response to pretty much everything around this full moon. Okay? Now, for those of you who have the colorful fortune of having planets or sensitive degrees between 6 and 10 of the cardinal signs, Aries, Libra, Cancer, Capricorn, you will definitely be feeling this Mars-Saturn conjunction and this full moon the most acutely. And I'm not going to lie to you, this isn't going to be fun. This is not going to be your grandma's picnic. It is hard to say how this will play out, because we're talking about literally hundreds and thousands of people all sharing planets or sensitive degrees, or millions of people sharing planets and sensitive degrees at these particular locations. And so this is a pretty general, universal thing happening. So what I would say is this: if you, the person who carries planets or angles at these degrees, and you're getting hit with this particular aspect, if you also have been up to some nonsense, or you've been overly selfish or overbearing or whatever, if there's any reason whatsoever for you to call on the carpet for something, you can be sure that you're going to hear about it, and in no uncertain terms. So you might want to take stock of where you have come up short up until now and start doing some damage control before we get there, so it's not quite so awful medicine that you have to take. And that's, unfortunately, that's all I got, because this is not a nice full moon Mars-Saturn conjunction, and some folks are really going to get their asses handed back to them. I don't even know how else to say it. Not everybody, but some people. And if you do, you might actually deserve it, so you might want to consider that. For other folks, you may just find yourself getting steamrolled. if you don't harness this energy, if you don't put it to productive use, again, use or be used. If you don't use this energy for something productive and for the greater good, it's going to steamroll over you. There's no way around it. There's just no way around it. Okay. Now, the saving grace here is that we do have this beautiful, thank God for small favors, right? Get in here real quick. We have this beautiful, Venus will have entered Taurus. Hurrah! So Venus will be in the sign of its own rulership. Okay, let me get rid of this real quick. And this is a huge, huge blessing right here, okay? Because Venus, at the same time, will be making a trine to that hairy, scary, god-awful Mars-Saturn conjunction, okay? So what this means is that efforts that are made towards building solid foundations, that are made towards nurturing people and the environment, that are aimed at stabilizing things, not upsetting the apple cart, but actually stabilizing things and creating solid, safe foundations for people. And also that involve long-range plans and common sense, for God's sakes. These are the things that are going to just slide through easily and save the day. So with Venus, thank God, moving into Taurus on the day that this full moon occurs, we've got an opportunity to get good stuff out of this. We're just going to have to avoid the landmines as we go through. So Venus, in sign of its rulership, lends itself to pleasure. Things that feel good, things that taste good, things that smell good, things that make us relax. So good food, good music, good fabrics, good soil, good couches and pillows, good company, good wine, good conversation, the things that restore our humanity, and ground us and bring us back into our bodies, is the antidote for this Mars-Saturn. And it's also, the Mars-Saturn is benefited by this thing. So do Venus and Taurus to ameliorate the worst of this Mars-Saturn conjunction, and you'll find you get the best stuff out of it. People who are involved in the arts, textile arts, sculpting, soil gardening, things of that nature, food stuffs, will benefit tremendously at this time with that. I would also, with Taurus and Capricorn, there's a bit of a thing with banking, although I'm not completely sure what that's about because I'm not a financial astrologer. But I would look for some news or some, promising, hopefully promising changes with the economics or banking regulations or something to do with finance. But again, this won't be unaccompanied by lots and lots of screaming and gnashing of the teeth, because there are definitely going to be folks out there who are wound up tighter than a violin. And this full moon Mars-Saturn conjunction is going to be just what they don't need to send them reeling like Tasmanian devils. Yes, lots and lots of growling and gnashing of the teeth. So let's not be one of them. So let's use this energy. Okay, now let's get into this a little bit deeper. We'll kind of go back and forth real quick. Okay, get rid of that. All right, so this is the same chart. It is the same chart. There's just a whole lot more going on. So I thought it would be interesting to throw a few extra things in here. So I have some trans-Neptunians and some asteroids. I don't typically use them a lot because I feel that everything you need you can pretty much get from the simple chart, right? If you can't get it from the most basic chart, then you're not going to get it. So everything comes down to your fundamentals, and everything like this is just like literally the Jimmy sprinkles and icing on the cupcake. So this is all extra stuff, but this is not the cupcake itself. If you can't make the cupcake, all this decorative additional stuff doesn't mean anything. So here we have Chiron at the 29th degree of Pisces, and we are not going to talk about that person. Oh, God, that vile excuse for manhood. And that interpretation of Chiron. Jesus, got a bad taste in my mouth just thinking about him. But we are going to talk about Chiron. Sorry. We are going to talk about Chiron and Pisces. and some asteroids and trans-Neptunians that are also at the 29th degree joining it. Okay, so let's take a look here. So as we've got this full moon and we've got this Mars-Saturn conjunction all happening simultaneously, we also have a picture, a planetary picture that is right here, Vulcanus, which rules explosions, by the way, and volcanoes, and Admetos, which also rules compressed energy like nuclear energy and hand grenades. I know this is sounding so promising so far, right? Chiron, which, you know, is the wound that never heals in some descriptions, but it's also the bridge between two worlds, and it's also where we're giving the guide. Chiron's got some weird stuff with it. We're still learning a lot about Chiron. Cupido, which rules social contracts and marriages and community, okay? And Vesta, which has to do with rituals, religious devotion, not sacrifice so much, but subservience to a greater good, serving a greater good, and also, I hate to say it, folks, it also has to do with feminism or female spiritual power. I know, such a frightening word, right? Okay, but it's okay. We're not going to grow hairy armpits and grow our hair, the hair out on our legs and go to a lesbian commune out in Oregon where we all hate men. That's not the kind of feminism we're talking about. This is not Andrea Dworkin feminism, for God's sakes. Okay, so with this particular planetary picture, some things that we're looking at. So the first thing is with Admetos and with Vulcanus together, that's a tremendous, and it's 29th degree, that's a tremendous concentration of power and energy that is literally kind of spinning out and waiting to be released. So if you could imagine a vehicle or a car, like guys drag racing, like, you know, down in those canals, those dried up waterways underneath the bridges in California or whatever, and they've got the car in drive, but they got the foot on the brake and the foot on the gas at the same time, so they're really accelerating gas, but they won't let the car go anywhere. So you see the wheel spin, whee! And the smoke coming out because they're really tearing up the rubber on the tires. That is a lot like what we're getting with this Admetos and Vulcanus pairing at the 29th degree. So if you can imagine that buildup of power and energy literally spinning its wheels, like this is what this feels like right now under this full moon. So you can imagine that this particular full moon with that Mars-Saturn conjunction on top of it is going to be a hella tense full moon. Now, with that, on the other side, we have Cupido, the trans-Neptunian, and we have Vesta, the asteroid, both having to do with relationships and community and society, and the feminine principle and the goddess. These are all things that fall into the feminine realm. So we have hyper-masculine versus hyper-feminine. So with Cupido and Vesta, what we typically look for is a strong theme or a heightened awareness of the need, the desire, and or the presence of ritual and community and society, and the whole thing about the greater, the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the one, cooperation versus domination, relating versus oppression and all that sort of stuff. So a lot of these concerns about finding more amicable, social, gentle ways of getting things together will be at play during this full moon as well, which is good because we definitely need something to balance out that Vulcanus Admetos tire spinning thing. Oh my Lord. And we need the extra time to figure out what direction to send those two planets in, or the energy of those two planets, so that all that energy can be sent in a positive direction as opposed to a destructive one. So with that, of course, and now we have Chiron and Pisces. So I know some of you have heard all sorts of stuff about Chiron and Pisces. So, and I will just say that there's a lot as astrologers we don't know about Chiron and Pisces because it's a relatively new phenomenon. So a lot of what we're learning is by observation. And observation always depends on what you're looking for. In physics, one of the things that we know is that if you're looking for it, you're going to find it. And if you're not looking for it, you're not going to find it. So things are only in existence when we pay attention to them. So same thing with observing. When we're making observation, we only see the things that make sense to us because that's what we process and remember. So that's what I'm going to say about anything anyone has to say about Chiron at this point, because there's so much we don't know because it's relatively new, like within the last 20 years, phenomenon that we're all working to understand and integrate in our work. So there, huh? So with Chiron and Pisces, one of the things about Chiron is that Chiron is very much about a bridge between two worlds. So it's the thing that joins things together. It is also a point of selfless sacrifice. And I know there's some people that don't want to hear that. Like, I mean, it's like, how much more I pay taxes? How much more do I need to sacrifice in my life? But it is a point of selfless sacrifice. So if you look at the position of Chiron in your natal chart, for example, you will find that this is always an area where you may be required to sacrifice in what seems to be an unfair way, where you're always seeming to give more than you're getting back, and that's what sacrifice is. But that Chiron position will also, and I don't look at it by signs, I look at it by house positions, that Chiron position will also show where you have the ability, if you can figure out how to turn the lens around and adjust your perspective on what is happening, what is needed, and what you should be getting from a situation, how this can actually become an alchemical, like alchemy or an alchemist, transformative and magical process that helps elevate you. So there are a lot of hidden magical transformative things in that Chiron placement by house in your natal chart. And we're not going to get too much into it in this because we don't have that kind of time. So with that said, with Chiron at the 29th degree, we're not worried about the sign, we're just looking at the degree. Chiron at the 29th degree would indicate, again, this sensation, this feeling of this energy kind of being spiraling up, and compressed, the tires spinning and squealing, trying to move while we hold it in place to build up more energy. So the transmutation or the transformation, the final stages of development, if you could picture it, picture the butterfly in the cocoon, picture the cocoon in its final stages as it's trying to open, and imagine how much tension, developmental tension and pressure has to come from the inside out to finally get that very well secured and designed cocoon to fray just enough to start to split open. This is that moment that we're at, where we are on the verge of great transformative change, not only for community and society and what's good for everyone and, you know, our spiritual work, but also for the future in terms of our power and our progress and where we're going, because we are marrying these things with Chiron. Okay, so the cocoon is starting to fray just a tiny bit, and just like anything else, like if you're ripping fabric, once you get that little tiny break in that secure, almost welded fusion of fibers that hold it together, then the rest of the opening comes easier and easier and easier. And from inside there is this magical transformed thing that's been growing all this time and is now ready to come into existence. This is where we're heading, but we're not there yet. These planets are still at the 29th degree. So we have a little ways to go, but that feeling of urgency, that feeling of potential, and that inner sense that we all are going to have, well, most of us are going to have, that no matter what else is going on, we are on the verge of great and beautiful things. Great and beautiful things. The beginning is almost here. We just have to finish up a little housekeeping. That is what we're getting with all of this. Okay? So, but again, remember, these are the jimmies on the cake, the little jimmy sprinkles on the cupcake, not the cupcake itself. These are minor details. Everything we need still has to come out of the foundation or the basic chart. All right. Some other things that I thought was very interesting about this particular full moon and that Mars-Saturn conjunction. Oh, I wrote that as a square and I meant conjunction. We have, out of all the minor aspects that are going on when this full moon is exact, we have a novile right here with the moon and Jupiter. So the novile is a very, very minor aspect. The novile, again, here's what's interesting. The novile, again, goes back to this theme of dedication and service and religious ritual and sacrifice, being of service to a higher good. So with the moon, novile, Jupiter, this means that on an unconscious or subconscious level, there is a need, as far as our evolution goes. The evolutionary demand at this time is the novile, and that is to give ourselves over to the greater good, to get in line with spiritual practice. And what is the word I'm looking for? Community, and like a nun, putting our individual egos aside and stepping up or stepping down into our humility so that we can assist in the process of lifting other people up. Because it's not about us, it's about everybody, right? And Jupiter is principles and community and much, much bigger things. So it's, the personal versus the transpersonal. And this is all about service, okay? And setting our personal ego stuff aside and doing the right thing. So that I thought was very exciting. So we should see a lot of, well, maybe not a lot of it, but when we do see it, it will be very, very conspicuous and highlighted and extremely important. And I think that will all help us find the star to navigate by in terms of whatever we're dealing with here on the, personal, cultural level, because the thing about it is astrology is global. It's not just, one country or one city or one person. It's global. So all of us across the globe will be feeling this and seeing this in one way or another. So this is going to be, I can't believe I wrote square. Sorry, get rid of that. So this Mars-Saturn conjunction, as scary, ugly, unwelcome as it's going to seem to a lot of people, is actually going to be tremendously powerful and good if you can harness it. Those of you who are getting hit by this Mars-Saturn square, or which actually is a T-square, that are getting hit by this, listen, there's no way to make this feel better, but I can tell you with this much power, if you're doing the right thing in life and you're not getting caught short for stuff you should have been doing differently all along, if you're doing the right thing in life, this is going to give you a tremendous push to move forward in an accelerated fashion and get even more done. This is a power aspect. So for those of you who are on the up and up and doing the right thing, this will catapult you. For the rest of you, wouldn't want to be you. Yeah, what is it? Roosters coming home to roost and all that sort of stuff. So the best that you can do if you're in the latter group is to make amends where you can and try to do some damage control before this aspect hits the end of the month. Now, for everybody, the reason this is all going to be important is as we move into April, that is when this stuff is really going to hit the fan. So one of the things that I would look for is as early as April 9th, and then all the way down to April 22nd, we got all kinds of, April is going to be a popcorn popper of energy and events and circumstances. So, oh my God, exciting times ahead. So this March 31st Mars-Saturn conjunction with the full moon literally is heralding an April to remember. Oh my God. So we start the month off. Technically, we're starting the month off with the full moon at the end of March. And then we're heading right into that eclipse activation again, that 11 Leo eclipse activation again. So people who were taking that 11 Leo eclipse activation a couple months ago or a month ago, we should be revisiting that again. So it'll be interesting to see what pops up with this, right? But as this is happening, Mercury will be making a direct station on the 15th, while Saturn makes a retrograde station on the 17th. And the Sun and Uranus are conjunct on the 18th. Holy Jesus, Mother of God, we're not going to get any sleep in April. What is it? No sleep till Brooklyn. Sorry, it's an old Beastie Boys reference. And while this is going on, Pluto will be making its station retrograde on the 22nd. Now, the thing I just want to point out with Pluto and your outer planets, but especially Pluto, is that Pluto doesn't officially turn retrograde on the 27th, but we are feeling Pluto all month long before that. Because the further out the planet is, the longer it takes to move, the longer, or the further in ahead of time we start feeling any changes of direction. So the retrograde we're seeing on the 27th, we're feeling as early as the 9th. So this Pluto nonsense, we're feeling early on. So April is going to be quite the month. The entire month is going to be quite the month. So this March 31st eclipse, oh my God, I'm so sorry. This March 31st full moon with a T-square involving Mars-Saturn may appear to be an end of the month thing. But this is actually, I would literally sling it over as an April 1st, April Fool's Day jokes on you? Maybe not, because this isn't really a joke. I would sling it over in April and use this as part of this whole energy pattern we're looking at in April. So that is all I have to give you about the Mars-Saturn aspect. Do not panic. Do not panic. Do not cry. We will get through it. And again, use the energy or let it use you. You know, you have a choice. So there you go, folks. I hope this helps. Please, obviously, keep me posted and share if you think it will help. And that's it. We will check in soon. And I apologize for not having Pep Talk Tuesday this week. It's been quite the week. And we're not even into April yet. Okay, talk to you later.